a little bit of success right up front. What is the easiest crop that I can grow, that our family can eat, that we can enjoy, that's going to be, hey, I can do this, and then give me the inspiration to try more things. What's the easiest food crop to grow?
Well, first of all, it needs to be something your family would eat.
Right.
So lettuce is really easy.
Okay.
Peas are pretty easy. Those are things you can plant starting in March. If you wait too late and it's hot, they're not going to do so well. And another thing that reminds me that a lot of people make mistakes about is planting the seeds too deeply. So how deep you plant the seeds depends on the size of seeds. So lettuce is really tiny, so you just barely cover it with soil, where peas are bigger, so you plant them more deeply. So 2 to 3 times deeper than the size of the seed.
And would you recommend that I sprout those indoors first?
Not for those.
No.
I just plant them directly in the garden.
Okay. Yeah.
What should I be planting indoors? Like starting?
So starting indoors, tomatoes and peppers, which is a little late for those this year. But those are things you can start your own seeds inside. There's some you can go either way, like cabbage, broccoli, all those. You can plant the seeds directly in the ground or start them ahead. Some people plant squashes and melons and cucumbers directly in the ground from seed, and some people start them ahead. But you only want to start them about 2 weeks ahead for those, because squashes and melons and things get big pretty fast. Now you could soak the peas overnight and let them sprout just a little bit and then plant them, but don't like grow them into a plant and then plant them in the ground outside.
I've also
So
heard
let's say that I grow. Sorry, Scott, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've also heard it's good, like at the end of the season, like when you're collecting your food, like if at all possible, save the seeds because they've learned from that soil and then they're better for that ground again the next year. Or is that just a myth?
Well, I don't know, but it is really important to learn to save seeds from your plants, because what if you couldn't get seeds? And the only seeds I sell are heirloom or open pollinated, which means you can save seeds from those things for the future. And the way you save seeds from different things is not always the same. And so saving seeds from a tomato is not the same as saving seeds from radishes, for example. And then some things, I just let them reseed themselves. I've done that with kale. So instead of collecting the seeds, I just let it flower, go to seed, and replant itself. So that's another thing you can do.
So is that more of like your edible landscape type stuff?
It can be.
Okay. What would you recommend for like the edible landscape? Like, is it stuff you want that's just going to grow every year, or like, do you have to like, I'm a dummy on edible landscape. So let's kind of give
Perennials or annuals.
Yeah.
So it can be all that kind of thing. Some people put raised beds in their front yard. I don't do that because, for one thing, I'm advertising to everybody that I have food in my front yard. And I would rather do kind of stealth gardening where it looks like ornamentals maybe, but it's not. So currants are an attractive shrub. So are gooseberries. I have them growing in my front yard. I have 8 or 9 different kinds of currants, and why not do stuff like that? So
what's a currant for?
It's a fruit that you can eat raw, or you can make it into jam or juice.
Currant?
And most of the ones I have taste good raw.
Nice.
And one of the earliest fruits to produce in this area. On gardeninspire.com again, if you put in edible landscaping, there's a list of plants that you can grow in your yard in zone 6. And then there's also a list of things that you could grow as houseplants. All my houseplants are edible.
Nice.
That's awesome. So you always have clean air and something to eat.
Yes. If you're going to have houseplants, why not have them be something you can eat? Now, edible does not necessarily always mean tasty. So some things maybe I would only eat if I needed something more to eat. But having a variety of plants in your yard that you can eat is great, because what if you lost a crop of your cherries or apples or something else, and you have other fruits producing that you could eat? So there was one year I didn't get my early garden planted, my lettuce and all that stuff. Just some things came up and I didn't. But I was still able to go out in my yard and gather all this stuff to make a salad. In fact, I just posted on Facebook the other day. I made my salad from my yard with stuff that I had not planted this year, even though I
Including-
did plant this year.
including dandelions, right?
There were some dandelion greens in there, miner's lettuce, which is another wild edible plant. There was some kale that had reseeded, just some small leaves of that. There was garlic chives, so a perennial herb. There was lemon balm, another perennial herb. There was sorrel, perennial vegetable herb. Anyway, all these different things were in that salad, so it was a nice mix of greens that none of it was planted this year.
That's
Do
awesome.
you do anything special to keep the nutrients for those going? Do you like spray them or put stuff around them throughout the year to keep them going?
So compost is great in all parts of your yard. And I usually don't make enough to fulfill my needs.
Mhm.
So when you buy compost, you want to make sure to know what's actually in it to make sure it's really compost. And if it's called biosolids or made with biosolids, it's composted human waste. I don't use that. I don't recommend it. Partly because of all the drugs, Drano, all that stuff in it. So make sure if you're buying compost, you know what's actually in it. But anyway, compost is great for the soil, especially here in Utah where there's not much organic matter. And then I also use a fish emulsion liquid seaweed mix, and it comes in a concentrate. You can just put it in a hose and sprayer and spray everything. It absorbs it through the leaves. You can water with it. And I haven't done this yet, but you can actually make something instead of the fish emulsion seaweed. And if you have seaweed in your area, that's great. You can use that seaweed. You just want to make sure you rinse the salt off of it from the ocean.
Okay.
But where you're not near the ocean like me, you can mix comfrey, alfalfa, stinging nettle, any of those together and steep them for, I don't remember how long. There's recipes online. I haven't actually done it yet, but it gets kind of stinky, but that has lots of nutrients. Comfrey and alfalfa bring nutrients up deep out of the soil. So they're great things to use as a compost. Some people grow comfrey under fruit trees and chop it down just to help feed the tree.
Wow.
That's great. So you kind of answered the question that I wanted to ask, but let me just make sure. If I was going to take a plant from inside the house or a little, thing that I made to just get it started, a starter kit or whatever, and I go and take that into the yard and put it in the ground, I want to probably dig a little bit bigger hole and then fill a bunch of compost and then put the plant in so that it has that extra compost there. Would that be true?
So what I do instead is I put compost down. Then when I dig the hole to plant, some of it's going to get mixed in with the hole.
Okay.
But I don't dig the hole and intentionally mix the compost, and it just happens because I put the compost down first.
Got it. Cool.
Now what about putting, say, manure directly onto your garden?
So
I got a lot of horse manure out here.
So it depends on the manure. If it's recently out of the animal, no, you want to compost it first.
Mhm.
Rabbit can go right in the garden. There's not a problem with rabbit. I've cleaned out people's chicken pens before and put it on my lawn. And some of it was probably not composted as much as it should have been, but there was no problem other than the neighbor's dog rolling in it. But he rolled in the deer poop in the woods anyway. But so one problem with horse is weed seeds go right through a horse.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely compost horse manure really well, and hopefully it gets hot enough to kill weed seeds so you're not spreading them.
Cool.
But compost can be manures. It can be just stuff you made that doesn't have any animal products in it. There's lots of, it's just decomposed organic matter.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually just collected a whole bunch of leaves on the side of my house, the north side, and I've moved those into a compost pile. And I'm super stoked because I'm like, all right, I'm composting. And so to learn today what I need to be doing right, because a lot of stuff I do is wrong. This is exciting. I can't wait to listen to this again and take good notes again. Buena, thank you for being with us, taking time out of your schedule. I know you're off to a class or meeting after this. Guys, she has courses that she does all over the area here. So if you're local, you're very blessed. Come to her store, come learn from her. Check out gardeninspire.com. And if you're in Bountiful, shoot on over to Basin and Rose. It's over on Orchard. What's the address here?
2110 Orchard Drive.
2110 Orchard Drive, guys. Thank you again for being here. You guys, you've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio. We are radio for the ready-minded. Have a blessed day, a happy day, and God bless you.